Dear student friends, myself is J.V. Santape, Associate Professor in Botany. I am going to explain one basic topic from ecology. In our previous explanation or previous lecture, I have explained first part of this topic from ecology, paper 3rd, Edaphic factors. Today we are going to discuss the second factor, climatic factors. The climatic factors are those factors which determines the climatic conditions of particular geographical area or particular locality. So generally, climate in different regions, geographical regions, if not uniform, because of variations in the climatic factors like light, atmospheric temperature, atmospheric humidity and wind. So these four factors, sub-factors in the climatic factors actually determines the climatic conditions of particular geographical area. That's why these factors which are determining the climate of particular geographical area are commonly called as a climatic factors. So out of these four factors, in our syllabus of BSc Part 1, paper 3rd, only two factors are included, light and atmospheric temperature. Remaining two factors are not involved in our syllabus, like atmospheric humidity and wind. So we are going to discuss these two factors only, atmospheric temperature and atmospheric humidity. So light and atmospheric humidity, two factors only. So as far as light factor is concerned, light is very essential factor for the survival of each and every living things, directly or indirectly. As far as plant life is concerned, each and every plant, green plant especially, requires light for the process of photosynthesis. That means light plays important role in the synthesis of food material in the form of starch by the green plants. And this food which is prepared by the green plants is consumed or utilized by all the animals, including human beings. That means the major role of light is in the synthesis of food material by the green plants. So this light factor is further divided or classified into three sub-factors such as quality of light, intensity of light and duration of light. For the convenience of study, this light factor is divided into three sub-factors like quality of light, intensity of light and duration of light. So what is the meaning of this quality of light? So if we see the visible spectrum of light, so light which is coming from sun towards the earth surface, commonly the visible spectrum of light which is made up of different 7 wavelengths of rays. That means in the visible spectrum of light, 7 different types of rays are there which are having different wavelengths. That means the visible spectrum of light is made up of wavelengths of different colors. That's why we see during rainy season the rainbow. How many colors are there in the rainbow? There are 7 colors because of different wavelengths of light which are present naturally in the visible spectrum. We see in rainy season, during rainy season, the rainbow which also shows 7 colors. That means this, out of these 7 colors which are naturally available in the light due to light rays of different wavelengths, out of these various rays which are having different wavelengths, blue light and red light, starting from blue to red, these two lights, blue light and red light, plays important role for supplying the energy to the chlorophyll pigment. That means each and every green plant possesses or having the cell organelle commonly called as chloroplast. And this chloroplast absorbs the light, especially blue light and red light, and which is utilized for the synthesis of starch during the process of photosynthesis. So complete visible spectrum of light is more useful than the isolate color of light or isolate wavelength light. That means all plants are naturally exposed to the total visible spectrum of light, it is not harmful, it is beneficial. But out of these different types of rays which are available naturally in the light, for example, ultraviolet radiations. These ultraviolet radiations, infrared radiations, they are supposed to be detrimental for the life, including human being. That means ultraviolet light shows negative effect. As far as plant growth and development is concerned, but this red light shows positive effect in the growth and development of the plants. For example, cell division, cell elongation process is favored or facilitated by this red light. That means out of these different 7 wavelength light, red light is found to be more beneficial for growth and development of plant. But as far as cold vegetation is concerned, all kinds of plants are concerned. All plants are exposed to the total visible spectrum of light, and it is beneficial. It is not harmful. It is not harmful. Then second sub-factor of light, intensity of light. So this light intensity is variable, and this light intensity is different in different regions, because this light intensity factor changes in different localities, different geographical areas due to another factors. For example, altitude of particular area, latitude of particular area, atmospheric humidity in particular zone or geographical region, then wind velocity in particular geographical area. That means these factors affects this second factor, light intensity factor. That means clouds, humidity in the atmosphere, wind velocity in the atmosphere, they affects the intensity of light. That means this light intensity factor as far as the intensity of light is concerned, sudden change in the intensity of light from very low intensity to high intensity, it is harmful to the plant. That means sudden change in the intensity of light from low to high is detrimental for the growth and development of plant. So low light intensity, very low light intensity, as well as very high intensity of light is also not beneficial for the plant growth and development. That means intensity of light, very high intensity of light is harmful for the plant growth and development. So some plants, as far as total plant life is concerned, some plants are growing in water, commonly called as hydrophytes. Some plants are growing in dry regions, commonly called as xerophytes. Some plants are growing in moderate climatic conditions, they are commonly called as mesophytic plants. So if we take into account all plants and requirement of the plant, light requirement of the plant or intensity faced by the plants naturally. So some plants are growing in high light intensity zone. For example, in desert regions, vegetation cover is very less, water bodies are very less. That's why wind velocity is also more, atmospheric moisture is very less. That's why intensity of light in that zone is more. That means some plants are adapted for that conditions. That means more light intensity zone. That means some plants are growing in water bodies like seashore or oceans. So different plants which are growing naturally in the water bodies like oceans possess or gets the different wavelength light. The plants which are showing in uppermost layers of water, they are getting naturally high intensity light. The plants which are deeper, present naturally, growing naturally in the seawater, in the deeper layers of water, they are facing very low light intensity. That means some plants naturally, they are getting low intensity light. For example, shade loving plants. Shade loving plant means plants which are growing in the forest, thick forest, small plants, herbaceous plants, grasses, etc. So these herbaceous plants which are growing in the forest under the large tall trees, these plants are getting naturally low light intensity. That means these plants are adapted for that conditions, low light intensity conditions. Some plants which are adapted for high light intensity conditions. That means as far as the requirement of the light intensity, naturally the plants are generally classified into these two categories like heliophytes and xerophytes. So what is the meaning of this term heliophytes? The term heliophyte is used for the plants which are requiring high intensity of light naturally. For example, I have told you earlier, plants which are growing naturally in less rainfall zone, for example deserts. These are commonly called as heliophytic plants or heliophytes. That means these plants are adapted for that conditions. These plants are naturally getting high intensity light, and high intensity light, they develop some adaptations in order to survive under that conditions, like high light intensity conditions. Then xeophyte is another group of plant according to the requirement of the light intensity. So xeophyte is a group of plant which requires very low light intensity. So I have already told you, those plants which are growing in forest, commonly these small plants, grasses, herbaceous plants, pteridophytes, bryophytes, these plants are commonly growing in the shady places, in the forest. These plants are commonly called as xeophytes. These plants are also known as shade-loving plants. That means shade-loving plants are naturally growing in low light intensity conditions. That's why they are adapted for that conditions. The next sub-factor of light is duration of light. So as far as duration of light is concerned, in the 24 hours day cycle, exact photo period or day length and night period or dark period is not uniform throughout the year. There is a variation. That means plants which are growing in different geographical areas are decided by this factor. That means duration of light. So on the basis of requirement of how many photo period is required, either long photo period is required or either short photo period is required, naturally, for the vegetative growth as well as reproductive growth. So mostly this duration of light factor plays important role in the reproductive growth. The meaning of the reproductive growth is conversion of conversion of vegetative buds into reproductive bud is commonly called as reproductive growth. That means after completion of vegetative growth of flowering plant, reproductive growth begins. So when plants after attaining maturity or vegetative growth, when they are exposed to the appropriate light period or appropriate photo period, then and then only conversion of vegetative buds into reproductive buds takes place. In the language of physiology, we call this process as a physiology of flowering. That means conversion of vegetative bud into reproductive bud is the phase in the plant, is the stage in the life cycle of the flowering plant. It is commonly called as flowering stage or reproductive growth. That means this duration of light plays important role in the process of reproductive growth. So on the basis of requirement of this photo period, plants are classified into three groups: long day plants, short day plants, and day neutral plants. So what is the meaning of this term short day plants? Those plants which are required naturally short photo periods for the initiation of flowering, they are commonly called as short day plants. Long day plants, those plants which are requiring long photo periods for the initiation of flowering, these plants are commonly called as long day plants. And third category of plants, depending upon the requirement of photo period for the initiation of flowering, is the day neutral plant. So this third group, doesn't require appropriate photo period. Even they are getting short photo period, flowering may take place. Even they are getting long photo period, flowering may take place. That means such kinds of plants are naturally growing or grown by the farmers throughout the year, because flowering takes place in every season. In summer season, in winter season, in rainy season. For example, chili, brinjal, tomato, maize. These crops are taken by the farmers throughout the year because these plants do not require specific photo period. On the contrary, other plants, for example, gram, for example, wheat, these crops are taken by the farmers in our country during winter season, because during winter season, low temperature which is essential by these plants is getting by this plant naturally, as well as photo period in winter season or light period in winter season is comparatively less. That's why crop pattern is also decided by the farmers according to photo period requirement of photo periodic requirement. That means these physiological processes affected by the many physiological processes in the plants are affected by quality of light, intensity of light, and duration of light. So I have listed here which physiological processes which are controlled or which are affected by all these three factors: synthesis of pigments and photosynthesis process. That means synthesis of pigment, that means each and every plant, green plant, possess pigments. The major pigments which are involved in the process of photosynthesis, light harvesting pigments, are chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenes, xanthophyls. So these pigments, out of these two pigments, major pigments are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. These pigments are commonly called as light harvesting pigments. They absorb the light and convert this absorbing light into the chemical energy in the form of star. This process of conversion of physical energy or light energy into chemical energy in the form of carbohydrates is commonly called as photosynthesis. So in absence of photosynthesis, any green plant is unable to synthesize their food. That means this food synthesis process is a unique process which is carried out by only plant only, because synthesis of food takes place with the help of only chlorophyll pigments, and chlorophyll pigments are only found in green plants. And synthesis of starch or photosynthesis process also requires light. In addition, another raw material like atmospheric CO2, like water, which is naturally available in the soil. That means by taking this raw material, each and every green plant take part in the process of photosynthesis. So for the synthesis of chloroplast as well as pigments like chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, as well as photosynthesis process, light is essential. Then rate of transpiration. So each and every plant, especially higher plants, commonly called as vascular plants. Vascular plants absorb the water from soil. Soil is the major source of water for all plants, vascular plants or higher plants. So total amount of water which is absorbed by the roots of the plants is not utilized by the plants for its metabolic activities, for growth, for development, for reproduction, etc. So water which is excess, water which is absorbed by the plant, which is excess, this excessive amount of water is released in the atmosphere in the form of vapors during daytime. So this process of removal of water in the form of vapors during daytime by the aerial organs of the plants is commonly called as process of transpiration. So rate of transpiration is totally decided by light intensity, as well as other factors are also responsible for determining this physiologically important process like transpiration, like wind velocity, like atmospheric humidity. So these factors, humidity as well as atmospheric temperature, plays important role in controlling these important physiological processes in the plants like transpiration. Then say third one, photosynthesis and respiration, respiratory gases, gaseous exchange. So normally I have told you earlier, the photosynthesis process is a unique process which is only observed in higher plants or green plants. So during this photosynthesis process, each and every green plant take atmospheric CO2 and water as a raw material for the production of starch. By utilizing this atmospheric CO2 and water from the soil, plants synthesize food in the form of starch. That means starch is the end product of photosynthesis process. In addition to starch, plant also produces oxygen at the end of photosynthesis process. That means end products of photosynthesis is oxygen and starch. So this oxygen is released by the plants during daytime, during the process of photosynthesis. Simultaneously, process of respiration is also going on in each and every plant, including human being also. Each and every living organism requires oxygen for its survival. Oxygen is essential for cell respiration, for creation of energy. That means oxygen is taken by the plants for respiration, and O2 is released by the plant during the process of transpiration. So these things happens naturally in the life of the plant. But sometimes, if light is not available, if some light is not available, for example, during dark period, during night period, photosynthesis stops. Only respiration is going on. Plant is taking oxygen from nature, from environment, and photosynthesis is not going on. That means photosynthesis and respiratory gases exchange is also controlled by these factors. For example, light or intensity of light. Physiology of flowering, I have told you earlier. On the basis of requirement of photoperiod, plants are basically classified into three categories: long-day plants, short-day plants, and day-neutral plants. That means as per the natural requirement of the appropriate photoperiod in 24-hour cycle of day, the process of flowering means conversion of vegetative buds into reproductive buds. It takes place naturally in each and every higher plant. After completion of vegetative growth, up to some extent, each and every higher plant produces the flowers from vegetative buds. So this process is commonly known as physiology of flowering. And this physiology of flowering process is also controlled by the light, duration of light, or commonly called as photogradient in the physiological language. That means physiology of flowering process is also controlled by the light factor, that means duration of light factor. Then plant movements. So different types of movements are shown by the different plants, lactating movement, photodropping movements. These movements are also controlled by this environmental factors like light, then seed germination. So each and every higher plant produces the seeds as a sexual reproduction process is going on throughout the life of the plant. Each and every plant produces the seeds, thousands of seeds, hundreds of seeds, in order to raise the next generation. That means if the seed gets suitable condition for germination like moisture, temperature and air, then and then only seed germinates, sprouts and produces the seedling. That's meant beginning of the next generation starts from process of germination. So for the process of germination, there are three basic prerequisites or three basic needs in the form of oxygen or air, in the form of moisture or water and light also. That means moisture, temperature and air. If these seeds are getting adequate quantity of moisture, adequate quantity of temperature and adequate quantity of oxygen in the soil, then and then only seed germination process is facilitated. That means the seed germination process is also controlled by these climatic factors. Then distribution of the plants. So if we observe different types of vegetations on the land masses, different areas in the world, different types of plants are observed in different geographical areas. So who decides the distribution of plant in particular area? In Himalayan region, different plants are there. In dry regions like Rajasthan, in our country, different plants are there. In Western Ghat, different plants are there. That means plants are different in different regions. Commonly, in ecological language, we can call it as phytogeographical regions of India. There are 10 phytogeographical regions of India. So who decided these phytogeographical regions? That means in particular region, particular types of plants are growing. For example, in high rainfall regions, for example in Andaman region, evergreen plants are there. That means life intensity in that region is more. Annual rainfall is more. That means throughout the year, raining is there in Andaman Nicobar Island. That's why more number of plants which are growing naturally in that region, Andaman Nicobar zone, island, are evergreen plants. So who decided this vegetation type? Climatic factors. That means climatic factors also plays an important role in the growth, development as well as distribution of the different types of vegetations throughout the world in different geographical areas. Then we are going to discuss the second factor. Second climatic factor, temperature. So temperature is also very important climatic factor as far as different physiological, different metabolical processes in the plants as well as animals are concerned. That means this temperature factor plays important role in controlling the metabolic activities of the plants. For example, in our body as well as plant body, many biochemical processes are going on throughout the life of the plant which are basically controlled by temperature. In the physiological language, we call them as enzymatic reactions. What kind of reactions are going on? Enzymatic reactions. That means each and every enzyme in this particular biochemical reaction requires appropriate range of temperature. If temperature is not available, enzymatic reaction stops. That means up to a certain limit, if we increase the temperature, enzymatic action increases. Enzymatic reaction also goes on increasing. Beyond this limit, enzymatic activity stops. That means temperature shows its effect on the metabolic activity indirectly by suffering, by controlling, by checking, by disturbing the enzymatic activities in the plants, including human being also. If our body temperature rises, our metabolism also disturbs. That means temperature also plays important role in the metabolic activities of the plants. So very high and very low temperature produces harmful effects. Very high as well as very low temperature shows very harmful effects in the life of the plant or growth and development of the plant or metabolism of the plants. Plant exposed to the light, high and low temperature shows many adaptations. That means I have told you earlier, plants which are growing in dry regions or deserts, they are naturally adapted for high temperature, high light intensity. That means these plants are only able to grow in that desert region. If we try to cultivate some plants from our region to Rajasthan, these plants can't survive because these plants are not adapted for that condition. That means high temperature and low temperature both are detrimental for the plant. Very low temperature is also harmful, very high temperature is also harmful. That means some regions are there in the world, for example Arctic regions, alpine regions. These regions are receiving naturally low temperature. Some organisms are there, including plants. Some microorganisms are also there, as well as higher plants are also there. These plants are also adapted for that low temperature only. That means high and low temperature shows adverse effects on the growth and development of the plants. So Arctic region plants grow under very low temperature because they are adapted for that low temperature only. Another plant, if you try to cultivate there, don't survive because metabolism of the plant stops. There is some algae which are commonly growing in hot water springs. Some algae which are growing in hot water springs, they are adapted to grow in that condition, high temperature region. For example, these algae can survive temperature near about 89 degrees Celsius. That means another algae is not surviving there. Only some algae which are adapted in the hot water springs. Naturally, hot water springs are available in particular water bodies. In that water bodies also, some organisms are happily surviving. For example, some bacterial strains are there, some bacterial species are there, some algae are there. They are only adapted for that region, for that temperature region, high temperature water conditions. That's why the temperature factor is also showing its effect on the life. So I told you earlier, in order to cope with or in order to survive in adverse conditions of nature, for example, high light intensity, lower temperature, very low temperature, plant produces some adaptations in order to survive. It is the unique character of all organisms. In the process of survival, plants as well as animals try to adapt according to surrounding. That means, as like animals, plants are also trying to survive, and for this survival process in adverse atmospheric conditions, natural conditions, plant produces some adaptive characters. High transpiration rate to cool the area organs is a character shown by the plants which are growing in dry regions. That means leaves remain in vertical position. This is adaptation. Leaves are generally exposed to light. They are not in vertical position. But in some xeromytic plants, leaves are in vertical position. Coating on leaves to reflect the light rays. Thick bark on the stem and branches, living cells with low moisture content. So these are the adaptations produced by the plants in order to resist these adverse conditions of nature. On the basis of temperature tolerance capacity, plants are classified into these four categories: megatherms, mesotherms, microtherms, and ecistotherms. So meaning of this megatherm, the plant which can tolerate high temperature, naturally they are commonly called as megatherms. For example, natural regions which are observed in our country, like desert regions, like Rajasthan, these plants are commonly called as megatherms. Mesotherm is another group of plants those plants which are getting naturally moderate to low temperature during some period of year, and remaining period they are exposing high temperature, comparatively high temperature. For example, during winter season they are facing low temperature. During another season they are getting naturally high temperature. So such kind of plants which are growing in particular geographical areas, for example tropical and subtropical areas, they are commonly called as mesotherms. Microtherm is another group of plant depending upon temperature tolerance capacity. These plants requires comparatively low temperature for natural survival. For example, alpine regions. These plants are naturally happily growing in that region in very low temperature. Very low temperature. For example, plants which are growing in Arctic zone, alpine zone, in our country also, in Himalayan region, some plants are happily growing. Some organisms are happily growing. So most of the portion of the earth is covered by ice, and in that condition also some organisms are living happily. That means such kind of organisms, including plants, they are commonly called as ecistotherms. That means these plants can tolerate very low temperature, very very low temperature. So I have tried to give some ideas about our this topic from ecological adaptations under the heading of edaphic factors and climatic factors. So if I request the students, if you have any difficulty, if you are facing some difficulty, with the help of WhatsApp number, with the help of email number, you can contact us, our faculty members, each faculty member, any faculty member. We are ready to solve your difficulties and try to learn this topic which is remain to learn in our classroom lectures. If you have any difficulty, contact any faculty member of botany. We are able to solve this difficulty. Okay, thank you.